All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my review for the premiere episode for the final 8 episodes of the Walking Dead television series. This one for season 11, episode 17 now. It is called Lockdown. Alright, dudes, so definitely wanted to do our first review for these last 8 episodes, and I think the second episode is up right now on AMC Premiere, AMC Plus, so I don't know, AMC Premiere a little bit tricky with regards to the release date. They didn't really let us know ahead of time, but if you have AMC Premiere or AMC Plus, you can watch the first 2 episodes of the final 8 episodes for the Walking Dead television series. This review is just for episode 17 of season 11, so just for the premiere episode called Lockdown. Fun episode, spoilers to follow. A lot of different things happening in this one. We have a lot of characters involved, lots of zombies as well too, which is fun, and a lot of different points of view. So let's break this down in terms of different character sets, I guess, for this one. It almost includes, I think, basically the whole, the whole cast for Walking Dead in this episode. We have Negan and Annie, which is the name of the lady that Negan is with now. You have Daryl, you have Maggie with Maggie and Daryl, and some of the others, Aaron in there, Gabriel in there. You have Lance, who is got his own little group of Commonwealth soldiers with him. We have also Mercer and Rosita as another section. We have Carol and Negan at part of this, right? Negan's kind of, throughout the episode, kind of goes from being on the outside of the Commonwealth with Daryl and the others to meeting Mercer, going into the Commonwealth, and then going with Carol. We have Pamela and, those around her, Yumiko, Magna, the kids, Jerry, and the couple of agents, I guess we could call them, that are following the kids and Carol and Jerry, trying to get them. And then we have Sebastian, who's hiding in like an old closet, pretty much, or a little feels like a older broom closet or something, extended, and he's like hiding there from everybody because of what's been happening. So I was admittedly a little bit lost in this one. It's been a little while since I've seen episode 16, the finale episode for season 11's second part. So a little bit kind of out of the loop on this one, but got back into it again fairly quickly after the summer, break for Walking Dead and everything. So a lot of things happening in this episode, a lot of different cool action sequences. The intro is great. We get to see Negan and Daryl and some of the others as well too, fighting against some of the Commonwealth soldiers. And this one is quite a different feel for Walking Dead versus the earlier seasons, as we've kind of led up to. Commonwealth is a much different group than any of the prior groups in Walking Dead. It's much different than the Whispers, which are kind of like a recent major group of villains. There's the Reapers. There's Governor and Saviors and everybody else different. But this group with the Commonwealth feels much different than a lot of the others, in that it's as much of a horror zombie apocalypse action series as usual, but it's also bringing in kind of the political elements of it in this with the Commonwealth group, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's cool that, based on what's been happening the last couple of years in real life, this episode being called Lockdown, it makes me think like there's protests in the episode and stuff like that. So it's very current in terms of like the last couple of years. In real life, you have protests everywhere, all these different countries, different groups and everything. Where I live in Canada, there's the truckers protests and all this stuff where they like shut down the city. They're honking their horns. Some lady said honk honk equals Hail Hitler, I guess. I don't know, some Jewish lady in Congress like saying that the truckers were Nazis or something. I don't know. Anyway, each person manifests their own opposition, their own antagonist to themselves based on their own fears, I think, in some ways. So this one is pretty cool. Lockdown, you have them protesting, and basically what happened in the Commonwealth in this episode. Pretty much what happens and what's happened recently is they kind of lost control of the press. So the Commonwealth is a group where they're not like the Whispers or something where they're just surviving on the land or something. They've kind of advanced quite a bit throughout the zombie apocalypse to where, they have seemingly elections, like we have in real life, right? They have kind of a more advanced society. They have a political class. They have a newspaper type of service. And so this is basically what happens when regimes lose control of their press. Is basically what happens in this episode. So Yumiko and the others, Kelly and some of the others, Connie and that, they published something against the current regime in the Commonwealth, which is Pamela, Sebastian, and the others. So Sebastian has to go into hiding because by losing control of the press in the Commonwealth, they basically set up a situation where the mob goes crazy and wants Sebastian to hang pretty much for what's been happening. And so we have the beginnings of setting up, maybe after this episode, possibly Lance as a fall guy for what's kind of been happening, and him as like the blame guy, right? That you would use to satisfy the mob and what have you. So it's cool the way they have protests in this episode. Again, just a coincidence. I mean, these comic issues were written a long time before. These were released years before 2020, 2019. But it's just kind of cool the way it kind of synced up in some ways for Walking Dead. So I like it. But that's why regimes have to keep control of their press. You guys see why this is a good thought experiment in this episode of exactly why the press has to be, and television as well, has to be completely controlled by every regime, whether it be U.S., Canada, any others, right? Like it's like the government here. In 2018, 2019, the number was something like $600 million that here in Canada that the government paid out to the different news news companies to basically buy them, pretty much. That's what they have to do that, right? Because as you see in this episode, it's a good thought experiment for what happens if you're going to be going into some turbulence. You got to keep the news on lockdown, and then here online, you got to make sure that anybody who's got a voice is not getting too crazy. Otherwise, you got to deplatform them, ban them, all that stuff. So that's what's been going on in real life. A lot of parallels to this episode for Walking Dead, and exactly why they have to kind of do that. So in this one, they're not able to do that. You're kind of seeing a developmental process that the Commonwealth is going through in Walking Dead post-zombie apocalypse, right? To where everything gets brought down to the Stone Age, to zero, and then they have to go into zero, and then has to build back up, build back better, right? 666, build back better. Lowercase b's is BBBs. Okay, they got to build back better, and so they got to rebuild their society, start up their newspapers again, and go through the growing pains of learning that they got to absolutely keep control of that, otherwise shit hits the fan. So to add to that, Pamela's decision is to basically let the walkers in to the Commonwealth to clear out the protesters and use tear gas and other things like that, which makes sense from her perspective that she would do that. So you have a lot of different things happening here. You have the fighting with Daryl and Maggie and the others outside the Commonwealth. You have the protests and the civil unrest inside the Commonwealth. You have Negan going from one to the other. You have Lance, who doesn't really know what's going to be happening here pretty soon, but Daryl is able to capture him at the end of the episode, and it looks like the rest are probably going to put their guns down because their commander, Lance, has been captured by Daryl. And so some good action sequences with the walkers, Negan and Daryl, a cool car chase scene in the intro. It's pretty sweet. You get some awesome scenes with Rosita and Mercer as they go out to face this walker horde and some of their maybe less experienced soldiers that get too close to some walkers. Mercer puts his hand out to try to pull one of his soldiers away from the walkers, but they rip him to shreds, with the idea being of the walkers that over time, as they're scratching away at stuff all the time, they're walking around, rubbing their hands on walls and fences and gates and all kinds of different things, the skin gets rubbed off their hands, and the bones on their hands get kind of sharpened. So if they kind of get a hold of somebody, their bones are really sharp from scratching around all the time trying to get food aimlessly, that they can quickly, kind of like little daggers, get into somebody and rip them apart. So even though they're slow, they're still quite formidable, right? So you get the idea that this inflicts cost on Mercer, and if he finds out that it wasn't somebody not doing their job, that they were purposefully allowed in for political reasons by the current regime, which is Pamela, Sebastian, and the others, he's going to be really pissed as a result. So it's a bit of like old school Walking Dead, the walkers, the action, all that stuff on the outside, and civil unrest and a new type of Walking Dead on the inside. There's also some pretty good scenes where the kids and Carol and Jerry are kind of evading some of the Pamela's agents that she sent out to try to get them. It looks like maybe for leverage. You get the one guy who looks like Walking Dead Triple H somewhat. They got to play the game, right? He's got the bald head and the nose and the beard. So I don't know. He looks a little bit like Triple H to me. I don't know. Modern Triple H, not like 90s, 80s hair, Triple H character. So because I don't know his name either. I'll have to look it up after this. And then the lady who plays Stephanie, Eugene isn't really in this episode much. I did notice that. He's one that's kind of missing from this one. But the rest is really good. So I like the scene with Negan where he's introduced to Mercer. That's cool. And he's kind of being sort of interrogated by Mercer. He also gets kind of captured by some soldiers and helping Sebastian kind of get away. So there's that as well. And you get the sense that he's kind of beginning to be able to get into Mercer's ear in this episode as well. And that for some reason Mercer kind of seems to listen to Negan almost by default. I don't know, maybe it's a personality thing or something. So I think it's a fun episode, a really great start. It's got everything for Walking Dead that you would be used to, but then it also has the political elements too. That's pretty smart in terms of how it's written, because that's basically how it works in real life as well, pretty much. So I got to keep control of the press, right? Otherwise, that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to give the episode a 9 out of 10. It kind of ends off in a cliffhanger with Lance. I think the second episode's posted, so I might watch it after this. But this review for the first episode is great. Enjoyed it a lot. You guys know Walking Dead always rocks. And cool part, they go like into the sewer underneath and that. Kind of neat. And Annie being useful already. We'll see if she makes it to the Negan and Maggie spinoff series. That remains to be seen. Oh, and there's another pretty good scene in this one where Maggie and Daryl have a quick word about what happened with Leah in the earlier parts of season 11 and why Daryl chose to do that. And so he invokes Glenn to say that basically that that's what he kind of has. He's obligated to do that. He doesn't need to say thank you for it. So it's a great scene. So anyway. I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it very much. I liked it. Let me know what you guys thought about it. I know some of you guys are not that keen on the political stuff. A lot of you guys don't like it. So the political, civil unrest stuff. But based on what's been happening in real life, is it more, topical for you in mind? Is it more current for you in mind? When we read this in the comics, that was like in 2016, 2017, prior. So maybe it wouldn't have been as interesting then. Is it more interesting for you now, considering the last few years, or is that just me because I'm getting older or something? Comments below, thumb the video up, and I'll see you guys soon again for another video. As always, it's Travis saying peace later, guys. See you soon.